In the summer of 1948, the rugged Grammos Mountains of northern Greece became the stage for one of the most significant and brutal confrontations of the Greek Civil War. This was Operation Koronis, a massive offensive launched by the Greek National Government Army with the objective of annihilating the main forces of the Greek Democratic Army, or DSE. The operation, which raged from June to August, was more than a mere contest for territory. It was a crucible that tested the strategies, resolve, and endurance of both sides. This account will analyze the detailed course of the campaign from its meticulous preparations to its ferocious fighting phases and clarify why this event was so pivotal in the trajectory of the war, its consequences echoing far beyond the immediate outcome on the battlefield. By 1948, the Greek Civil War had reached a devastating peak. The DSE commanded a formidable force, estimated between 20,000 and 26,000 fighters, and controlled substantial swaths of the northern Greek countryside. Crucially, it received logistical support through neighboring Yugoslavia and Albania, which provided a lifeline for its operations. In response, the national government in Athens, fortified by substantial American military and economic aid under the Truman Doctrine, had swelled its army to tens of thousands. Its forces were increasingly equipped with modern weaponry, including a significant advantage in artillery and air power. Following a series of successful clearing operations in central and southern Greece, the government's high command turned its attention to the heart of the DSE's power, the Grammos Mountain range, its formidable natural fortress, with peaks soaring to 2,500 meters. It was a landscape of dense forests and precipitous valleys. Situated near the Albanian border, it was an ideal terrain for a guerrilla defense, though its remoteness also posed severe challenges for long-term resupply. Within this unforgiving environment, the DSE had constructed an intricate defensive network. Grammos was transformed into a veritable fortress. Fortified with two distinct layers of defensive positions, concealed booby traps, and subterranean bunkers designed to withstand artillery bombardment. The government's plan to assault this stronghold was codenamed Operation Koronis, Greek for crown, signifying its aim to decisively seize the entire area and sever the DSE's vital connection to its rear bases. The strategic goal was not just to occupy the mountains, but to encircle and destroy the core of the DSE's fighting capacity, thereby breaking the back of the insurgency. Operation Koronis commenced on June 16, 1948, and would last until August 21st. It was a monumental undertaking, involving an estimated 40,000 to 70,000 government troops. Depending on various sources, arrayed against approximately 8,000 to 12,000 DSE fighters entrenched in the mountains. The initial phase was characterized by a systematic concentration of government forces from multiple directions. Reconnaissance aircraft scoured the terrain, attempting to pinpoint DSE positions for punishing artillery barrages. The ground assault involved a combination of regular infantry divisions, elite mountain commando units known as LOC, and local National Guard militias, with American military advisors providing tactical guidance on coordination and logistics. The first objective was to secure the high ground that commanded the entrances to the Grammos Massif, with strategic peaks like Cleftis Hill becoming primary targets. From mid-June onwards, government soldiers began their slow, grueling advance through the rugged landscape, where the absence of roads meant that supplies and heavy equipment often had to be transported by pack animals or by hand. Above them, the Hellenic Air Force, flying Spitfire and Helldiver aircraft, provided crucial air support, dropping bombs on suspected enemy concentrations and conducting vital reconnaissance missions. Facing this overwhelming force, the DSE, under the command of Markos Vafiadis, implemented a tenacious and calculated defensive strategy. They leveraged their meticulously prepared fortifications, using expert marksmanship and coordinated sniper fire to bleed the advancing government columns. Localized, sharp counterattacks were launched to disrupt the enemy's momentum and sow confusion. Above all, the DSE fighters exploited their intimate knowledge of the terrain, compelling the government troops to undertake perilous frontal assaults up steep, exposed slopes under a hail of machine gun and mortar fire. The mountains themselves became a weapon, channeling the attackers into deadly kill zones and exhausting them before they even reached the main defensive lines. From July into early August, the fighting escalated to its most intense and savage phase. Government forces, frustrated by the slow pace of their advance, launched a series of direct brute force assaults on key strategic heights. The battle for Cleftus Hill became a grim microcosm of the entire campaign. In an attempt to dislodge the dug-in DSE defenders, government artillery unleashed a staggering barrage of over 20,000 shells upon the position. This was followed by desperate close-quarters infantry combat, where men fought with rifles, grenades, and bayonets for control of every trench and rock. The struggle for such peaks lasted for weeks, exacting a heavy toll in blood from both sides, with the harsh mountain weather adding to the misery. The DSE, in turn, refused to remain passive. Under the cover of darkness, its units mounted daring nighttime counterattacks, ambushing government supply convoys and infiltrating their lines to disrupt command and control. Air support was a constant factor, with government aircraft flying hundreds of sorties, but the dense forests and deep ravines often shielded the DSE fighters, who continued to hold their primary defensive lines with fierce determination. In my mid-August, the sheer weight of numbers and firepower began to tell. Government forces had succeeded in capturing several important high points, slowly tightening their grip on the Grammos range. However, they had failed to achieve their primary objective of a complete encirclement. The DSE's leadership, keenly aware of the attritional nature of the battle, perceived the growing danger of being trapped and annihilated. This strategic calculus was compounded by momentous geopolitical shifts. The public rupture between Yugoslavia's Tito and the Soviet Union's Stalin in June 1948 signaled that direct Soviet aid would not be forthcoming, while simultaneously jeopardizing the DSE's crucial sanctuary in Yugoslavia. Facing the prospect of gradual extinction, the DSE command made a critical decision. On the night of August 20th to 21st, they executed a brilliantly organized withdrawal. Under the noses of the government forces, the bulk of the DSE's main force, carrying its weapons and wounded, slipped across the border into the safety of Albania. While some small rearguard units were caught and overwhelmed, the majority of the DSE escaped the closing trap. Government forces advanced to occupy a silent and deserted Grammos, hoisting their flag over a mountain of ghosts. They had captured the fortress, but their quarry had vanished. The cost of this territorial gain was immense. The government army suffered thousands of casualties, while the DSE also lost several thousand fighters killed, wounded, or captured. An analysis of the events reveals a textbook mountain battle. The government army possessed overwhelming superiority in manpower, firepower, and air supremacy. Yet the unforgiving terrain severely blunted its offensive capabilities and slowed its advance to a crawl. Conversely, the DSE demonstrated the profound effectiveness of a well-organized guerrilla defense, leveraging the landscape to hold off a superior foe for 2 months before executing a successful tactical retreat to preserve its core strength. The true significance of Operation Koronis, however, extends far beyond the temporary results on the battlefield. Militarily, the government's capture of Grammos was a Pyrrhic victory. The failure to destroy the DSE highlighted the inherent limitations of conventional military tactics against a determined guerrilla force in mountainous terrain. For the DSE, the successful escape was a testament to its discipline and resilience, preserving its forces to fight another day. Yet the heavy losses it sustained were difficult to replace, and the loss of its primary base forced it into greater dependency on its cross-border sanctuaries. Politically, the operation unfolded against the backdrop of the seismic Tito-Stalin split. This event deprived the DSE of its most important backer and exposed its isolation from direct Soviet support, exacerbating internal divisions within the Greek Communist Party KKE and the DSE's leadership. The government, meanwhile, emerged with its morale bolstered and its army reformed by the crucible of combat, paving the way for the final, decisive campaigns of 1949. Internationally, Operation Koronis served as a clear demonstration of the Cold War's dynamics in action. The sustained American support for the government proved decisive, while the divisions within the communist bloc fatally undermined the insurgency. Ultimately, the Greek Civil War would end in 1949 with a government victory, but it left behind a legacy of profound tragedy, tens of thousands dead, a society fractured by deep and lasting hatred, and an economy in ruins. Operation Koronis stands as a stark and powerful reminder that in the complex calculus of guerrilla warfare, the capture of territory does not equate to the destruction of an enemy, and that the long-term outcome is often dictated not just by battles won or lost, but by the inexorable currents of local and geopolitical power.